My name is Meg Kearney. I'm the youngest of 3 adopted children. All of us were adopted through the New York Foundling in Manhattan. And I was also in foster care for my first 5 months on Long Island.
What exactly do you do with adoption and foster care in your life right now?
I'm a writer.
Okay.
And I'm also a director of a Master Fine Arts and Creative Writing program, so I nurture other writers in that capacity. But really, I found my voice as a writer once I started writing about adoption.
What made you start, what was that little, that drew you to writing? That was it more of like, you needed some kind of therapy to get it out? Or do you just had a passion for writing and then the adoption piece came through?
Yeah, the latter. And this is something that I'll be talking about in my session at the conference. I started writing, as many writers do, when I was very young, 2nd grade. I decided I was going to be a writer when I grew up. But like a lot of adoptees too, I grew up in a very loving home that was also filled with a lot of silence. And that silence had to do not with the facts of our adoptions, but our feelings around it. And I found out pretty young when I read my mom a poem in which I was expressing an interest in knowing who my birth parents are, especially my birth mother, that really shut her down. And I realized that this poetry stuff was really powerful, but at the same time, I had entered taboo territory in terms of subject matter. So I kept writing as a young person, but it really wasn't until I was in my 20s that I had a breakthrough and realized that if I was really going to be a writer, I was going to have to start writing about the thing that was part of my real core being. And that was myself as an adoptee.
Am I correct in saying, did you do 3 teen novels? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
What did you feel that you were trying to reach when you were writing those? It's different than poetry, so.
Well, the novels are actually made of poems and journal entries, and they're all in the voice of a girl who's the youngest of 3 adopted children, so they're very autobiographical. But at the same time, I was able to put on the mask of this adoptee named Lizzie McLean, and through her tell the hard emotional truths that I needed to speak about without fear of hurting family members, saying all those hard things, and having a kind of a way to come in on them slantwise that felt safe to me and felt safe to my family, and yet finally I was able to start exploring all those feelings that I had shoved down for so long. So it's through those novels that I've now been able to connect with so many other members, not just fellow adoptees, but adoptive parents and birth mothers, and even some people in the professional field, psychologists, psychiatrists who are interested in using the books with their clients.
I looked you up a little bit, and I know that you've probably, correct me if I'm wrong, have you spoken at conferences before? What kind of things? So when I meet and I talk to so many people, you learn so much from others. Yeah. What do you feel that some of the things that maybe people in the community would want to know about what you've learned from others through your experience of what you've written, and maybe maybe the feedback that you're like, I didn't realize that this would connect with someone on this level, or because obviously you're going to meet a lot of people as you're going through this. So
for me, it's been really huge because part of that silence that I was talking about pervaded all aspects of our lives. Most of my even closest friends didn't know I was adopted until I started really writing about it openly in my 20s. And through that, I found that once I started being open about being an adoptee, that's when other people start to say, oh, me too, or I'm an adoptive parent, or I'm adoptive, or I'm a birth mother, And I realized, wow, this community is a lot bigger than I realized. And
Right.
that's when we all start to make those connections, and find out how much we have in common, both the joys and the anxieties and fears that are all wrapped up, in this whole process.
So obviously, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, I asked I interviewed someone yesterday who was also an adoptee from New York who's going to be at the conference. What are your thoughts on about the whole idea of original birth certificates?
Well, I searched for my birth mother for 8 years. And in that process of searching, I certainly learned a great deal. And one of the first things I realized was that I did not have lawful access to my own birth certificate. And I took a look at the birth certificate I do have in hand and realized it's dated 2 years after I was born. Because technically my adoptive parents, were my foster parents also. So I was in foster care for 5 months and then placed with my adoptive parents, but they were legally my foster parents for 2 years. So in that search, I realized, oh, it's going to be my original birth certificate that has my original name on it. And I don't have the right to see that. So, of course, I have to find ways around that dilemma. But at the same time, wow, was I angry to know that I couldn't view my own birth certificate. And this is something that my character goes through too in the book, because she goes through the process of searching for her birth mother as well and runs up against the same dilemma.
Awesome. Have you seen other people's works? I'm sure with being a writer, you see other people because you're obviously trying to see if other people will start writing like you, because I saw in here that you try to teach people how to get this out and everything. Have you seen, what kind of things have you seen other people write about from you and your thoughts about?
Yeah, I love working with adopted teens, especially, and getting them to start writing their own poems and stories and giving them strategies to make them feel safe in doing that. And that's part of what I'll be talking about at the conference too. So no matter if you're a teenager or you're an adult adoptee or you're an adoptive mother or a birth parent, these are all strategies, or somebody who works professionally in the field. These are going to be strategies to empower adoptees to tell their stories in ways that feel safe to them, and tell their own emotional truths. And that sometimes means kind of coming at that subject slantwise, as a lot of writers do. But through the books, I've really made so many great connections, especially with young people. And one of the things I ran into in the beginning when I was shopping around the first book, the first manuscript, was I actually had an editor at a very large publishing house tell me that all these questions I was raising about adoptees, wondering where we come from and why our birth mothers gave us up. She said, oh, well, that's not legitimate anymore because most adoptions are open. And I knew that wasn't true. And the more now I've spoken with young people, even if they are in open adoptions, there's still so much silence. And, open can take many forms, right?
Right.
So, and also a lot of adoptees who were adopted internationally.
Correct.
There's that other element there where the chance of their ever finding their birth parents is slim to none. And that's something else that they need to face. And I found a lot of them coming to me saying, at least the stories that I'm telling are giving them some kind of platform to open up a conversation with their parents that they've never had. I had a girl who was adopted from Russia come up to me and say, I've never spoken with my mom about being adopted, and now we're already talking, like at the end of my reading.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, those are the kinds of things that's why I write.
That's why you do it.
For me, it's all about connecting and empowering.
Yeah. And I do it through video. I'm not a very good writer.
medium, you know,
Yes,
and then we share, here's some tools you can use
correct.
to overcome obstacles and to start feeling more grounded as a person, you know.
Correct. Is there any last minute, any things that you want to speak about that you want to put out to the community that you'd like them to let them know about you or what you do or anything at all before
Yeah, just
end?
to say, you know, as adoptees, we don't have a say over what happens to us as babies or as children. You know, we have no control over that. And what I'm trying to do is give adoptees and the whole triad and the whole community tools to take control of our stories, you know, and reveal what we want to reveal when we're ready to reveal those things. And maybe some things we're never going to talk about, or maybe some things we're going to talk about, but only in a very masked way. But it's all about empowering the adoptee and the children in foster care to take control of their own stories for once, and all the healing that comes with that, and inner strength that comes with that.